Good morning and welcome to this live virtual town hall event where you will learn all sorts of things about staying on your feet. This presentation is brought to you by Bickford Senior Living and Fox Rehabilitation. I'm Billy Daniels, your facilitator for this event. And we have three presenters rip roaring and ready to go. But before we get to those presenters, let's go over a few little things. Just a reminder, we are coming to you through the internet. If we ever lose connection at any point in time, we will be back. So just stay put. The other thing is, how do you ask a question? I'm sure you're all wondering that right now. And if you go ahead and if you're seeing me on your screen right now and you scroll down, you're going to see a form there that says ask a question. You can fill that form out. It will come directly to myself and my partners here in the room with me in the studio. So before we get to Sam here, I just wanted to make sure that everyone was clear on that. Again, if you want to ask a question, you can scroll down on your screen and you can go ahead and submit it. That will come to us. We will get to it either live during the event or we will hold those till the end. Okay, let's go ahead and bring Samantha Goodman up on the screen. She is the Senior Vice President of Sales at Bickford Senior Living. Sam, why are we doing this event today with Fox Rehabilitation? Can you give us a little information on that?
Yeah, so of course, we have a really great relationship with Fox. We have been working with them for several years. They started out with us in our Virginia branches and have expanded into a lot of our other branches. And we have found that we have this beautiful relationship with them where we've seen these wonderful stories and success stories, which I'm going to show you here over the next couple of slides. But we've had this great relationship and has expanded more from just these success stories, but really an educational standpoint for our residents, a partnership that has benefited not only our residents, but our community and our potential leads and families and resources, and been an educational standpoint for us too. And we do these really great fun Fox events in the branches. And it's just been a beautiful growing relationship for us. And so we want to bring that to everybody. And we want to share that with those of you in your home and let you know not only what Fox can do for you, but also the relationship that we have. And because this is a really important event, and we're going to start doing these for everybody to let everybody know what's going on. And so as you can see here, they have helped us, Fox, not only benefit our residents. We have some success stories, not only getting dressed, helping with falls, but getting dressed. Here walking, here on the right-hand side, she was walking down to the dining room to get wings, which is my type of thing that I'm going to need. Getting in and out of chairs right now, not just falls like the topic that we're going to do today, but getting in and out of chair. I'm struggling with that right now. If the couch is too low, even doing that safely. As you can see on the left here, left on my screen, I don't know about yours, but getting in and out, being able to walk steadily on your feet. And then the gentleman here, Horace, he had a situation where he had a recent fall, which we're going to talk about fall prevention, and it slowed him down with getting dressed in the morning. And so helping keep him strong with his morning routine. And so we've had these really great success stories, including one woman that hadn't walked in nearly 2 years in one of our Carmel branches. And she took her steps. Haley was the therapist in that branch, and all of our residents and BFMs in that branch were so excited and cheered her on. You can see that video on our Bickford website page. And so we've had these beautiful success stories that have just been phenomenal. And it's fun. You can take a look here, the fun that they have. She was able to make her homemade Christmas cinnamon rolls. And so they do things that are unique. This partnership has enabled such wonderful stories. And so we wanted to bring that to everybody to not only highlight how unique they are, but what great things that therapy can do for you, to keep people on their feet and keep moving forward, and to keep you young at heart, I guess.
That's beautiful. I think I love the couch reference there, and what beautiful stories of all the different residents that are currently within the Bickford Senior Living communities and branches across the U.S. We're going to go ahead and bring Anne Cheverton into the equation here. And she is the Senior Vice President of Resident Services. She's a registered nurse, and she's the head of all things healthcare related at Bickford Senior Living. And how has this partnership benefited Bickford from your point of view?
Yeah, and in many ways, Billy. And just to kind of reiterate what Sam said, the partnership has really helped us kind of hone in on more of that holistic and wellness approach. Even World Health Organization recently has said the importance of an active senior is they're a healthy senior. And that's multi-pronged approach, that's integrated approach, and that's care and services to take care of those needs, the therapy to take care of two aspects of care, which is kind of your acute care needs. If you fall, for example, you're coming back after surgery, we want to make sure we can provide those post-care needs. But also therapy plays a tremendous role in getting someone reconditioned back up to their normal functioning, and even maybe better. Sometimes we've had residents move into Bickford, they've been sitting at home for a long time. Maybe they and the family have known they needed to come into Bickford a little bit sooner. And then they come into a little bit deconditioned. They're not eating their 3 squares a day. They're not taking their medications. And often they're much weaker, much frailer, not making those nutritious meals. And that's what I think is the approach here. It's integrated, it's wellness focused. And we know that a happy, healthy senior is someone that feels well, can get out and about in the communities, can participate in those activities as well, and really make sure they're optimizing that life with us. We also know over the past several years, our residents have kind of aged in place. We have more residents coming in maybe a little bit older. They have chronic conditions and diseases, and so those have to be managed. So assisted living has changed really over the past 5 to 10 years, more of an acute care model at some level, taking care of you post those kind of injuries and falls in those situations, and trying to get you again back on your feet again. We work with, we look at the best standards of practice, and we follow CDC guidelines. The CDC guidelines have a tremendous, fall prevention kind of program. We've adopted those standards. So we actually do a lot of tracking and grafting on our outcomes and our results from falls and injuries and those things that could happen in the community. And we've done that in great partnership here with Fox Rehab. So together we've got care on one side, and we have therapy on the other. So we kind of focus here, as you can tell on the slide here, to kind of 2 aspects. We always want to make sure when new residents come in, they're screened. We like to screen a few times a year just to make sure if that deconditioning is going on, we can start to put some of those therapies in place to get you back on your feet again, and even maybe stronger. And sometimes we have to do a kind of quick assessment and get therapy going if someone's coming back from a hospitalization or surgery, or if they've had a particular fall that next morning, that we're able to have the therapist in there evaluating that situation, putting together kind of a plan to get that person kind of back on track. Next slide, please.
Are you seeing it? We're seeing it on our side.
Oh, sorry. There you go. I'm sorry. Yep. All right. So why is this kind of relationship so important? So it's a unique opportunity to have the ability to have the 24/7 care, but also have the ability to have therapy in the branches every day. So the nurses manage the care and the oversight, the medications and those things as well. And we know that medications makes quite a difference in how someone maybe is having issues with falling or dizziness and those things as well. And then working again with a therapist to come in and do that screening, that assessment, and together, really working together, that collaboration of the therapist and nurse working together is so important. And we find that just a tremendous win-win situation. And we see tremendous improvement in health outcomes as well. And you put that in line again with activities and exercise that we have available within the branches, but also those 3 squares a day that we can actually also really change up that meal preparation to make it more nutritious if someone needs more calories. So it can be very flexible on that front. So overall goal here is to have that integrated approach, wellness approach to get that senior back on their feet. And we've got some information that Dan will be sharing with you about these therapy services, but also specifically about some of the outcomes that we see But if you don't actually have these programs in place, and where those falls can really lead you towards potential hospitalizations and fractures and those things as well. So we work together to prevent all of those things. So thank you for that.
Oh yes, well, and thank you for taking the time to join us today and give us a little bit of the view of the relationship between Bickford and Sam as well. There, before we get over to Fox Rehabilitation, I want to again emphasize that if you need to ask a question. And we have seen a few come through already, is you can scroll down from where you're seeing me currently on the screen or seeing the slides on the screen. And you can use the form. You're going to go ahead and type in your name. You're going to type in your question, and you're going to go ahead and submit that over to us. That will come directly to myself and the staff sitting here in the studio. And before we get to Dan here, we're going to do a little video to learn a little bit more about Fox Rehabilitation.
Hi, my name is Roger Parker Barton. I've been going to gyms forever, ever since I got out of the Marine Corps. And one gym I tore my rotator cuff and snapped my bicep tendon, and it knocked me right down. I couldn't do anything. You know, you can't even lift a loaf of bread. Physical therapy I had, the lady's tough. She makes you do everything. She had me on that table where I had to pull my arm around like that, and I was stretching that rotator out. And I said, man, you know, what do you want me to do? Clean this table or what? She said, yes. So I did. I just kept going, and it felt better after a while. Now I feel like another man, a new man. I feel like I could go out on a date, put my arm around a girl, and not worry about it hurting. Since I've been in here, Bickford, and worked with Fox, they have made my life more comfortable, believe me.
Oh, all right. That was excellent. Roger Barton is just an interesting understanding there of everything going on at Fox Rehabilitation. And I want to, as you can see, Dan is on the screen. Dan Quirk is the Senior Regional Director, Physical Therapist at Fox Rehabilitation. Hi, Dan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for joining us. And today you are going to teach us the top 7 fall risk factors as we age. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you. But again, I want to remind our guests that are viewing, you can submit a question at any time by just scrolling down from where you're seeing the top 7 fall risk factors as we age. Go ahead and submit that. That will come to us, and we'll be able to get to those questions here towards the end. So Dan, take it over.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I appreciate you being here, and I'm excited to talk about this topic today. You know, as Ann alluded to, really proper health as we age is very multifaceted, but one thing that kind of weaves its way through all aspects of health and healthy aging is risk of falling. You know, when we're young, we can kind of fall and bounce back up. Typically, we don't have much issue, but as we age, you know, things get a little more dicey when we lose our balance and fall. We can lose a lot of function, which we'll talk about. So we wanted to not just talk about the challenges that falls create, but really give everyone some walkways, some what can we do? Because the one thing I'll say a few times, you know, falls happen more often as we age, which we'll talk about, but they're not normal. You know, just like any disease process, just like diabetes happens more often as we age, but it's not normal. There's treatments. There's health, lifestyle factors that can reverse it. The same goes for falls. So, you know, if we do all the right things, we can significantly reduce the risk of falling. And that's why we're all here to talk about it. So to set a little context about why I personally care so much about falls and helping older adults really age healthfully through their later years is, so this picture, this is not actually a picture of them, but the names are real. These are my 2 grandmothers, Alice and Arlene. So unfortunately, neither of them are still with us, but you know, the reason I bring them up is in the last year or 2 of their lives, they were affected by falls, and they really, their aging process accelerated pretty quickly when they had their first fall and they had an injury. And all of a sudden, different health issues started popping up, and that kind of led to the end of our time with them. And they lived great lives, but I think if we would have done more, if I knew then what I know now about helping folks healthfully age, I do think we could have gotten a few more years. That's personally why this is important to me. And this is kind of rings true in all the patients that I treat and that we treat here at Fox. So this is a little about Fox Mission Possible. So this is our mission statement. It's really, I'm just going to highlight the first sentence there. We really believe in the strength of people, and that's what we're all about. There is more potential in really everyone than we give credit for, especially older adults. Our goal is to abolish ageism. Just the fact of people saying, oh, you're too old to do that, or that's, you're not able to do that anymore because you're getting old. Frankly, we don't accept that. And we fight hard to make sure people know they have potential no matter what their age, no matter what their starting point is. And, that's one thing to Ann's point and Samantha's, that why we value our partnership with Bickford Senior Living so much, because they share these same thoughts, and they set people up for success in their communities. We at Fox work with about 34 of their communities right now. By the end of next year, we'll be in 60. So if you ever stop by a Bickford, or if you end up choosing that as a housing option for yourself one day, you more than likely meet a Fox therapist. And there's so much synergy between what we do, and a lot of it has to do just that belief that there's more to life and to aging than sometimes people give credit for. So we'll go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about really 3 different things. So we're going to put a little highlight on what the problem is, right? Why are falls so important? We'll talk a little bit about risk factors, but we'll focus a lot on action. So first is, what is the problem? Why are we even talking about this, right? The reason we're talking about it, we remember back to Alice and Arlene, and the statistics show they were both over 80 years old. Statistics show one of them will fall this year. If you're over 65, about 30% will have a fall, but if you're over 80, 1 in every 2 people will experience a fall. And like I said, falls are just they're much harder as we age to come back from. There's a lot more complications, a lot of things that can happen. One thing that happens, falls are responsible for over 40% of older adults going to the hospital. So, a lot of these falls result in hospitalizations. In this age group, you stay in the hospital typically up to 12 days, or I should say an average of 12 days, which is a long time. And if anybody has spent any time on a hospital bed, you're not moving too much. So, in this age group, you can lose up to 60% of your muscle loss with that 12-day stay. And unfortunately, another statistic, every 19 minutes, an older adult dies from complications of a fall. So, that's a pretty heavy statistic, but these things really happen and have a lot of impact. So this slide, you might be wondering what the heck this is, but I'll give you some context. So this is an MRI or a cross section of someone's leg. So you can see in the top photo that this is an individual who's 70 years old, but has maintained a high level of strength and fitness. I believe they were a triathlete. The darker, so you see the white dot in the middle, that's their bone, and the darker substance around that's their muscle. And then the white is kind of skin and fat and things like that. So the bottom picture is somebody the same age, 70 years old, but who has become sedentary and hasn't kept moving and kept a level of health and fitness. So you see how much muscle can really deteriorate over time. And it's no surprise that it becomes harder to stay on our feet, right, when that happens. And this just highlights that even further, that, it happens quickly. When we age, it becomes harder to bounce back. And we call this the slippery slope of aging. And Ann spoke a bit about the proactive nature of our therapy, but also Bickford's approach to senior housing and care. And we want to catch people in this fun and function time of their lives, before we become frail and before failure, where things really start to decline, as I alluded to with my grandmothers. We want to catch people in fun and function and give them tools and give them strategies to remain there as long as they can. And that's what we're going to talk about today is 7 different things that we can do to stay in that fun and function range. So risk factors, what are the kind of top 7 things we all need to pay attention to that can lead to falls? And that's there we go. So number 1 is a fear of falling, and we'll go into more detail. Number 2 is leg strength. Number 3, inner ear function, something you wouldn't think of, but we'll talk more about that. Number 4 is vision. 5 is proprioception, which really is a fancy word for kind of balance and our ability to know where we are in space. Number 6 is medications. And number 7 is kind of home safety, your environmental setup. So we'll go into each of those kind of one by one here. So yes, we're going to focus now on each of those 7, but what we could do to either change them or enhance our life in each of those areas. All right, so fear of falling. So what does that mean? It really means that, we have, whether you've had a fall and that's why you're fearful, or you just, unfortunately, we spoke about ageism. Sometimes it's not outward. Sometimes it's just people saying, oh, don't move so quickly or you're going to fall, or you just stay there. I'll take care of everything for you because I don't want you to fall. And that leads to a level of fear and inactivity. So when we talk about fear of falling, we really want to challenge ourselves in a controlled environment. We want to respect the challenges that falls can bring to us, but really not let fear control our lives, because it's kind of a catch-22. When we become fearful of falling, well, we stop moving. So our strength goes down, our endurance, our flexibility is hindered. So, if you look back to that picture we talked about with the muscle, you're going to slowly see muscle strength deteriorate. And that's what we're going to talk about next. But, fear of falling is something, you build confidence piece by piece. And that's why, myself as a physical therapist can help people, set up in an environment to challenge themselves, but do it in a safe manner, right? Because sometimes it's a little daunting to try to do on your own. So that's, through all of this is really a recommendation to seek help. Whether it's in a Bickford community where you interact with a Fox therapist, or just get somebody to come out to your home to kind of help you through this. It's all pretty daunting if you don't seek help. So the next risk factor is leg strength. So we showed the graphic of how strength can decrease over time. Well, statistics show, older adults can lose 5% of their muscle mass every decade after 30 years old. So I myself am 34. So I guess unless I do something about it, I'm going to start losing my muscle mass, decade over decade. Fortunately, just like a lot of these things, that's not inevitable. There's 80-year-olds running marathons and competing in bodybuilding, competitions. One of my favorite stories is a woman, I think she's in her early 80s, and she's ripped, right? She's very muscular, very strong, very competent, and she competes in bodybuilding. And the reason I love her story is she didn't start until she was in her 60s, never exercised a day in her life, and then decided for whatever reason to become a bodybuilder. So it's never too late. There's always something you can do. Myself and physical therapists can adjust strength training to your individual challenges, whether you have pain or, mobility issues, things like that. We can always work around things. So really the solution here is 3 times a week, moderate intensity. So we're not talking, sitting down with the old pink dumbbells, right? We're talking about, challenging yourself to a point of shortness of breath, to a little bit of, we should be breaking a sweat every day, right? That's something I try to stay true to. It should be of an intensity that really challenges you. And really full body, we're talking here about leg strength, but you want to do exercises like, if you're able, squats, lunges, things that move your body in a way that encompasses a lot of muscle groups. So the next risk factor, so inner ear function. So what you might be thinking, what do my ears have to do with falling, right? So it's not the part of your ear that you necessarily can see, but there's a part of your inner ear. It's called the vestibular system. And if you've ever had a feeling of dizziness or kind of the room spinning, or you turn your head and you all of a sudden get a little dizzy, or you kind of move your head up and down to look at something and, you feel that lightheaded feeling, that may mean you have an issue with your inner ear. And as we age, that becomes more common. And this inner ear organ really is what helps us know kind of where our head and our body is comparative to, the surfaces we're walking on. It's what helps you, not run into things because you know how far away you are or kind of where you are in space. So, it may sound like something that, well, what can we do about that? But there are actual exercises that, a lot of physical therapists and occupational therapists are trained in that, can help you retrain. It's like a muscle, it's like anything. You can retrain these systems to work better. This is probably something you can't just Google and do on your own, because you can end up getting yourself into more issues if you do the wrong thing. But certainly, physical therapists have a lot of training in the vestibular system and what we can do about it. So that's an important one. So as we continue, the next is vision, right? Something we all become challenged with as we age. And it's totally normal to have, declines in your vision as we age. You start hearing about, at age 40, of course, the standard is you start to need reading glasses, things of that nature. Your vision changes. But then as we age, we start hearing things like cataracts and glaucoma, macular degeneration. Which all are a little different, but really what they do functionally is change the way you see the world around you. Using this example will help you understand why this affects your balance. All of us at night, of course, sometimes we have to wake up maybe to go to the bathroom or just to get a glass of water. And before you turn the lights on, I'd challenge you to think, how well balanced do you feel? Are you really walking with full steps, full steam ahead and very confident? I am not. I'm surely not. You take small steps. You're kind of feeling around, things like that. So you could imagine if that's your everyday with your vision, it becomes very hard to know where your next step is going to land, and that's where falls come into the play. Solution here, I'd love to say, physical therapy can help everything. Probably not your vision. This is something you want to consult with your optometrist and your physicians about. But one thing, our colleagues, our occupational therapists, which Fox and Bickford always have in paired with their physical therapists, is they have a lot of training in adapting environments for low vision. So, sometimes there's not much we can do about fixing the vision, but we can really set up the environment for success, that even if your vision is poor, we can make adjustments to help your function and your falls still, be improved. And we'll talk a little, we're going to show a graphic later of a picture of a home. And we're going to kind of spot where all the fall risk factors are. And you can imagine when we see that, well, if your vision is poor, it's going to be real hard to navigate that home, but we can change some things about it. So the next piece, it's a fancy word, proprioception, but really, what we're talking about here, like I said, is balance, or your ability to know where you are in space. You can close your eyes and bend your knee and you know that your knee is bent. And that's because you have a system in your body called proprioceptors, right? Again, another thing, unfortunately, it is an uphill battle, but it's things we can change. Almost everything here that we're going to talk about, if we don't do anything about it, does decline with age. But the beauty of what we do and what I do as a therapist is a lot of it can improve with when we do the right things. So that's amazing stuff. This is more common when we have, neurological conditions, things like maybe we've had a stroke or have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease or multiple sclerosis, things like that. That would accelerate the process of losing our balance or proprioception. But, there is research to show that if we can accomplish in in a calendar year, 50 hours, I know that's a lot, 50 hours of moderately challenging balance exercises, we can slow or reverse really the progress of this aging process with proprioception. So what are we talking about here with moderately challenging? Not necessarily short of breath or sweating with this type of activity, but it's hard enough that you feel wobbly. You feel like, oh man, I could go down here, which is why you need to do it in the right environment. Of course, don't do it in the middle of the room. Do it maybe at your countertop that you can grab on if you lose your balance. But if you're just, doing a balance exercise that feels like a walk in the park, unfortunately, research shows you might actually be doing more harm than good. You have to really challenge yourself. And that's the theme here. When I say all this stuff is preventable and or reversible, it's not an easy path, that's for sure. But the worthy ventures in our lives usually aren't the easy ones. So this goes along with that. So the next piece, medication. So if we were in a room together, which I wish we could do this all in one place. So, I'd usually ask for a show of hands just about medications, and pretty much everyone in the room typically is in the world of experiencing medication, right? And the risk factor starts to grow as we add more and more medications. So if you have more than 4 medications in your daily regimen, that doubles the risk of falling. That's quite daunting. And I know a lot of people probably listening in are taking 4 more medications within the course of the day. And the reason this is because, of course, as we add more medications, it becomes very complex as to what is interacting with what is changing your blood pressure in a certain way that might make you lightheaded, or medications for sleep. Like if we're having trouble sleeping and we're taking something for that, and that really affects your balance the next day. Same with depression and anxiety. Those types of medicines you might have heard of, referred to as benzodiazepines, right? Another big word, but they really affect the way your brain, of course, the way your brain thinks, and that's why they're effective to treat anxiety and depression. But right alongside of that is the part of your brain that keeps you balanced and keeps you from falling. So they can equally affect that. So the recommendation here is really to review medications with your physician, not only your physician, but your pharmacist. When you go to the pharmacy to pick something up, they always ask the question, do you need to talk to the pharmacist, right? And most of us probably say no and get out of there because we're just waiting in line. But every time we refill, we should be talking to our physician when we go to visit them, or the pharmacist, to make sure all of our medications are very necessary and pertinent, and we can't back down on any. Of course, go by your physician's orders. Whatever they say goes here. I'm not recommending we change anything other than just posing the question, because a lot of times we think, oh well, if they prescribed it, they know that I'm taking all this other stuff, right? And sometimes they don't. Sometimes we go to a kidney doctor for something specific, and they put you on a medication, and they may not be aware that your neurologist put you on something different, and those 2 medications might interact in a way that makes it hard to balance or makes it hard to stay on your feet. So very important just to ask that question. And last but not least is environment or home safety. And this is this is multifaceted. We could do an entire presentation on this alone, but looking at things like poor lighting or clutter or lack of grab bars or things to hold on to in your home, or uneven or unsteady flooring, all those sort of things are the biggest risk factors we see within a home. Excuse me. Our recommendation here is really to work with an expert. Our occupational therapists are highly skilled in doing home safety assessments and evaluations, and they can kind of teach you what to move around or what to change or what to add or subtract from your home safety setup. But one thing as well, of course, we're here with Bickford as our partner. We highly respect what they do in the senior living world. And, one thing, I work a lot in senior living communities, and we have treated a lot of folks that reside in Bickford and elsewhere. And, it's very hard to find somebody that I would say, oh, you looked into senior living at the right time. A lot of times people wait until something happens. They wait till the fall happens, or they wait till an injury or illness happens to look into, more appropriate housing options. But, my recommendation would be to start early. Even if you go take a tour and just look around and, and really see what they have to offer, it's so much different than I think what public perception typically is of senior housing. I've been in some of their newer communities, and heck, it's nicer than a hotel I'd stay in on a vacation, and it's just well thought out. The things that you think about with, well, even to the point that you wouldn't think of, well, we go into a bathroom and you're pushing a walker. Well, if you go to reach to open the door, man, that becomes a very challenging situation to navigate. But, well, why don't we do a little sliding door that, is a lot easier if we're using our walker to get in and out of the bathroom? And, those are the things, of course, if we're living in our own home or a private home or an older home, that's obviously not going to be part of the equation. So, little things like that are so well thought out in senior living that, I'd really recommend, of course, get a home safety assessment where you are, but just look at different options, whether it's assisted living or independent living or just different options out there. It'll really set people up for success to kind of age in place. So as we come to a close, so again, here are our friends, Alice and Arlene, and I just want to bring it back to the why, really behind why we're talking about this is, of course, statistics show one of them will fall this year, but if we do all of those 7 things we talked about, we could reduce that risk by up to 60-70%. That's what the research shows us. So, it's worth it. It's worth it for our families. It's worth it for our own safety and our own health. And of course, the next slide is if we do therapy, then Alice and Arlene would look like this. So I mean, what better selling point than that, right? But as we come to a close, I hope folks have questions. I'm happy to answer any of them, and make sure people have enough information here to really make some positive changes and reduce their risk of falling, because that's why we're all here.
Wow, Dan, that was incredible. Some really, really great statistics and just some good info in general of what we can potentially be doing later in life, and then earlier in life too. Before we get close today, I do want to bring up the fact that we can't ask a question. It was just up on your screen. There have been questions that have come in. We'll get to those here in just a little bit. But I want to go ahead and bring back Anne and Sam onto the screen. And we have a photo that we're going to put up there. And we'll talk about the fact of, maybe the fall or the risk factors that are associated with those. So I'm going to ask Anne and Sam of when we're looking at this photo here, which we're going to switch over to. So you're now seeing on your screen, Anne and Sam there, what are some of the fall hazards that you see in this photo? What can you help us there? And then we'll have, the expert, who is not myself, I think his name is Dan, chime in with the answer. So we'll let Sam and Anne answer first here.
All right, so I'll do a few first, then I'll let Sam do a few, so she can pick them up. I'm the nurse here, so I'm going to probably see more of them. If I just start at the front of the screen here, and I see a resident who's in this kind of big kind of chair, I can see that might be a little bit hard to get out of and what have you. Then right beside that chair are some books. There's a coffee mug right there. And if you look, that's the walkway. That's the walkway between the chair and obviously where the fireplace is. So that's kind of stopping the walkway as a flow walking through. Next to the chair, you see that there's this cover that maybe goes in front of your fireplace, a decorative cover. It's got a foot to it. See that black foot there? That's a tripping hazard right there. And then, of course, we all have our cell phones plugged in, right? And there it is. He's got a cell phone plugged in. I can see the cable there. It's so small, you can barely see it. But right there, there's a huge ability to get your foot caught up on that, and then down you go on the hardwood floor. I'll do one more, Sam, I'll hand it over to you. And then, of course, we have this beautiful dog here. Got to have our dogs with us. And he's obstructing that walkway as well. He's sitting on a carpet and a little rug there. And that rug and that dog and that little nice cushioned little seat he's in are all things that are so easy to trip over. So I'll leave it there and hand it to Sam and see if she can find some more.
Oh gosh, I don't know there. I was going to say immediately, one of the things is we do a lot, we do have pets at Bickford. And so I love that, but having some help and assistance with pets is going to be a big thing. But, having a little dog, even my parents start tripping over their little dog, at home, he gets underfoot. But the uneven surfaces, right? There's two right there right away that are sticking out to me right there. And it's just a lot of things, right? Like there's no clear pathway to walk around with all of the furniture there. The loose throw blanket I can see right there that's hanging off of the couch. I would say I would trip over that immediately. I would have that problem. So I can see that. But this entryway right here is really big. So I don't know. I'm going to hand it over to the expert.
Yeah, we'll have Dan chime in here. Dan, how did we do, or how did Anne and Sam do?
They did great. I think they could have just went with pretty much everything in this fall risk hazard, but of course we can't just eliminate everything. One thing, I noticed this gentleman has a pair of glasses on. Of course, we talked about vision, and look at all the different textures and patterns in this room, and it almost makes me dizzy just looking at it. But you're trying to navigate a walkway or get between one piece of furniture and another, and there's different colors, different lighting, different patterns that can really throw us off, especially if we have back to our inner ear situation. If we're standing up and we're a little bit off and we can't kind of orient ourselves to where we are, that becomes an issue. And yeah, I mean, this is the type of home that or home setup that we could do a lot of work with. And we're not here to change everything, but just make some minor recommendations to make sure this gentleman can age in place, because he obviously has a lot of character and a lot of neat things in his home that we want to maintain that, but we can do it usually in a safer manner. So, but no, I think Ann and Samantha got pretty much all of it.
That's awesome. You kind of drew me back to there's got to be so much activity or so much space for activities, like in Step Brothers. For people who have seen that movie, is you don't want to completely change the house, but we just need a little bit, be able to get around. The vision thing, I think for me really struck me as something that was really, really interesting from my perspective of not really thinking about that, of the fact that your vision is deteriorating over time, which we know that, but not to the degree that you think it would be part of the fall risk for certain people. And myself included, wearing glasses here. I know there's probably going to be a super duper rush on pink dumbbells because Dan mentioned them. So I want to be clear. I don't own them, but I have looked them up as we were sitting here. They are available on Amazon, so anyone can get them. There were a few questions that did come in. I do want to answer a question that came in. I'm not sure they were actually watching, but we are recording the event. It will be available at a later date as well. So just so anyone that potentially can't see this, but I want to make sure that people understand that. Some questions that did come across and this is probably more specifically for Dan, but Samantha and Ann, please chime in at any point in time. What are some things, Dan, that people can do earlier in life as an adult to set themselves up for success for not being at I don't want to say not being a fall risk, but age a little bit better, strengthen their bodies? You talked about that picture that had the muscles in it. What are some things that people can do, and not a specific age, but what are some things that they could be doing? Sure.
That's a great question. And, I love hearing people who are wanting and interested in being proactive in their health. And, one of the biggest things, like I mentioned in there, when we look at leg strength and balance, I gave some specific, what we call it, dosages of exercise, right? 3 times a week,
right?
Full body, moderate intensity exercise. We're talking a 45 to 60 minute session where we break a little sweat. Our muscles are a little sore the next day, right? That's totally normal and actually a good thing. And that is one of the biggest things to maintain our muscle mass. It doesn't have to be very complex. Choose 3 to 4 exercises that make sense to you. And moderate intensity is different for everyone. So it depends,
right,
where I might need to put some weight on my back to do a squat that's moderate intensity. It might be moderate intensity just to stand up without using your arms, right? That might be moderate intensity for you 3 times, and you might be huffing and puffing, and that's okay. So we kind of meet people where they are. So wherever you are in life. And then, the one we don't think about again is the balance exercises. So I incorporate them into my own fitness routine. I try to do things with, standing on one leg, or, even closing my eyes and standing on one leg, something like that. If you have something to hold on to, is something, if you can maintain that over life, then you're in pretty good shape. So you want just certain things that I try to do to check in, on my strength is, hey, if you can walk up a flight of stairs without holding on today, you should probably do that just once a month. Try it out, because if all of a sudden you can't do it, something's wrong. I need help, right? We shouldn't ever stop doing challenging things, because they're kind of a litmus test to our health and fitness. And that's something that I like to do, is just kind of check in, every month or so to make sure I'm still at the level I want to be. And over time, that's something we lose sight of. But, heck, if you walk upstairs without holding on once a month and all of a sudden you can't do it, then that's diagnostic, right? Something's up, and that's where you can fix it.
Nice. That's it. Ann, Samantha, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think a good point. And I'll say that, I might be a little older than 29 years old, and I make sure every day I walk up the couple of flights to get to my office. I try to move my car further away, so I walk a little bit further to get to the office if I'm in a parking lot shopping as well, just to be mindful, to try and find ways to get that exercise in, because I'm a busy person. I think the biggest thing, in addition to everything that Dan said, is all around kind of our weight management, nutrition, right? We are, as a population here in the US, we are a little bit chunky. Obesity has been rising over the years, especially childhood obesity is quite a problem right now. And that brings on things such as diabetes and kind of cardiac blood pressure things as well. So it's really about managing your weight well, which is a good, balanced, healthy diet. And there's the data showing today more disruption in how you eat your foods. We're trying to obviously stay away from fried foods for sure, more vegetables. We've heard that all of our lives, right? But I think even changing when you eat, how you eat, as well as, obviously what you eat, the quality of what you eat. We know that food is medicine, right? We know that food is to fuel our bodies. And if we do it the right way, in addition to the exercise and just taking care of our bodies, it makes a big difference. And I think, as Dan said earlier, it's a mindset. If you have that sense of, I'm not going to let age, defeat me, and keep that activity and keep that interest, it's going to stimulate your brain. It's going to give you a whole sense of happiness and wealth and wellness. And that's going to kind of last you into the years. If you have that philosophy and that kind of mindset in place now, you'll probably keep that through to the end of your time if you are doing those great practices. And of course, what's great about Blickford, we can do that for you as well, help you, remind you that you want to plan. And what's great is with our own pharmacy, we're able to look at those medications. The average Medicare age individual has 8 medications. So our pharmacy team actually looks at that, is there a way for us to reduce those medications? We do that on a regular basis. And we audit all of those meds for all of our residents to make sure we are optimizing their health and not minimizing it by those medications. So again, an integrated approach to how we improve health, wellness, and fitness of our residents.
Excellent. Samantha, do you have anything to add to that, or no? She's good. Okay. I love the fact that there's some lifestyle changes that you can just make, even specifically like parking your car further away when you're just taking, in your daily activities. I'm definitely going to start doing that for sure. We did have a question that just came in from Denise, and she's asking what sort of recommendations for exercise do you have for someone that is 93?
That's a fantastic question. The recommendations are actually the same, but you just adapt the exercises to what your current status is, right? So it all depends on kind of where our starting line is. So, if you're able to stand and, stand up without using your arms, that's a great exercise for your legs. It's simple. The chair is always behind you. So it's a low risk activity. That's a great one. But, it's still back to that, we should be doing at least 3 times a week, 45 minutes to an hour in your program, kind of full body exercises that challenge our muscles. So, it all depends where we're starting. We at Fox treat a lot of folks who, they're starting in a wheelchair. Maybe they can't stand up, without using their arms, but we can still do exercises, whether we're using, bands or dumbbells or anything like that get their heart racing a bit and still kind of break a sweat and make their muscles a little bit sore and tired. And that's the goal. If you're, the intensity levels for moderate intensity are, somewhere in a 5 or 6 out of 10, right? So, it's not so easy that you can just hold a conversation and not really think about it, but it's not so hard that you're huffing and puffing and about to fall over. So somewhere in that sweet spot of 5 or 6 out of 10 intensity at any age, and like I said, when I'm 90, right now, I may need to put a couple 100 pounds on my back to do a squat that's a 5 or 6 out of 10 intensity, right? When I'm 93, I don't think that's going to be the case, but maybe it's just standing up without using my arms. Maybe it's in a chair, using ankle weights to kind of kick my legs certain ways that create that intensity. But it's again back to just making sure we have the right intensity of exercise, and it's gonna move the needle for us.
And I am going to add to that. I think it's just being mobile as much as possible too. I know that my grandmother, she lived to be 99 and she walked every day, and that was very important to her. She was very mobile her entire life, and she walked. And so whether that's part of your routine or anything like that, I think the important part to what Dan and Ann are saying is being mobile and being active. And if you can continue that throughout your life, that's going to be important. And for some of you, that's going to, for me, as Dan's putting up that you need to start after 30, well, I'm well into my 30s, even just starting the movement portion for some of you, that's going to be where you start, and then starting to add the weights in and doing that kind of thing, and going from there is, as he's more fit and having to put 100 pounds on his back to be able to go, that's his level. But for some of us, even starting out maybe at 90, it might be that, or you could be the bodybuilder at 80, starting in your 60s. So movement is key.
Great point.
Yeah.
And I think with the movement,
oh, go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say with the walking, I always make sure you continue to challenge yourself. Avoid the hill, right? Don't avoid, the challenge. I'm this is like deja vu with my parents right now. They're aging, and my mom says, "Oh, well, we avoid that hill because I get a little short of breath." And I say, "No, that's good. That's what you want. You want to be challenged. You want to have a level of intensity to what you're doing, and that's what's going to help you start to make improvements. So you can make it fun. You can walk a little bit faster between this tree and the next one just to kind of get your heart rate up. Things like that go a long way.
Yeah, I think it's challenge yourself, but within reason. Don't go overboard a little bit. And my mother is in her 70s, but just a few years ago, she said she wanted to do a 14er in Colorado, and she did it. And she was like, I want to do this. And she was bound and determined. It took her a long time, but she went at her own pace, and she was so happy she did it. Yeah. And so it's incredible. I agree with Dan there of you should be going up that hill, but at your own pace a little bit there. So,
yep.
Dan, you talked a little bit, there was a question that came in a little, late or earlier. You talked about the inner ear function, and a question came in of does someone that has inner ear problems younger in life, are they at greater risk later in life for a fall risk?
Yes, absolutely. That's something to be proactive about. If you've had issues with inner ear, even ear infections, early in life can have an impact in people's balance and their coordination and things like that. Or, if you've played football and had a concussion, that can kind of, that trauma can, or been in a car accident, things like all those sort of things that could have kind of shaken things up, if you will, in there. It's something to be very aware of, when you age. So, if you're walking and you kind of start turning your head side to side as you're walking, and that makes you kind of lose your balance, then those are just quick, easy tests to know there's something up, and you should seek help, from an ear, nose, and throat physician first and foremost to make sure nothing's going on medically. But, hopefully it's just a minor thing that some exercise, some therapy exercises can help out.
Awesome. So you can't, like you said, it is a muscle. You can come, train it to be a little bit better, but at the same time, it's probably not going to get back to 100% would be my guess.
Yeah. There's some issues that are, traumatic in nature that of course we can't, exercise our way out of, right. But for the most part, there's certain head movements, there's certain head and eye movements actually in combination that can help. And again, something, it's the disclaimer, don't try this one at home. You can try exercises at home, but you start messing around with this stuff, you might, if you turn the wrong way, you can make things worse. So, you want to get the right help there.
Right. Well, before we close, I do want to open it up to Samantha and Ann and Dan, yourself again, to maybe some closing thoughts here of what, society can be doing to better prepare themselves as we age.
Well, I think it's just a very quick summary. I think it's being engaged, being healthy, being mobile, eating the right things, taking care of your body, exercising, and finding a community that really is wellness focused, holistically focused, meeting those World Health Organization guidelines, following CDC guidelines, safe to be with. And as Dan said, let's make sure when that 93-year-old is standing up, we are there to support that and get them stronger over time. So the good news is we're able to provide those things and give that safety, security, and support to those residents and those seniors. And we'd be delighted to serve you and your family members as well.
Beautiful. Dan, Samantha, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll just close with, back to when we talked about our mission at Fox, but, shared also with Bickford, just, that belief in the strength of people and belief in the strength within yourself. We all have potential to improve no matter where our starting line is. So, no matter how daunting that sounds, there's people out there help. And that's why we're all here. So there is more in all of us than we believe in many ways, but, specifically to kind of strengthen balance, there's more we can do. So, just seek the right help.
Yeah. And so as a final, I just want to point out that I'm excited about our partnership and the successes that we've had and what Fox can do, and what we've been able to do together, and that we've started these, not only we do these monthly events, like I had mentioned with Fun with Fox, and then being able to bring it out to everybody. And I wanted to point out that our next our next series of monthly events is going to be on chronic disease management. And so next quarter, we're going to be doing the next virtual events that we'll be bringing out to everybody, but the branches will also be doing monthly events on the topic. It will be chronic disease management, which will be like pulmonary dysfunction, cardiac awareness, and Parkinson's disease. So while keep an eye out for those types of topics, either locally in the branches, or also we'll be setting out a virtual event here with Dan and Ann here as well. And Billy, hopefully you too, or Valissa,
Yeah.
We'll see what goes.
One of us. Yeah. Who knows? But yeah, so I want to thank everyone for attending. And as we're closing, I want to bring Samantha Goodman's contact information back up on the screen here. And there's a couple ways that you can get in touch with anyone at Bickford. And then they can get you in touch with Fox Rehabilitation, Dan over there. Either you can go ahead and submit a question on that question form. That'll still come to us. We'll get that over to Bickford Senior Living or Dan, or you can contact Samantha via her email address there, which is samantha.goodman@bickfordseniorliving.com. I'm not going to read her phone number, but it's up there on the screen if you want to contact her. And I hope that everyone has learned something today and understands how seriously Bickford Senior Living is taking the fall risk in their communities. If you haven't gone out to Bickford, any of the Bickford communities across the United States, be sure to reach out to them and stop by, because they are of the utmost in senior living providers across the United States, and they're doing a fantastic job, and we're so glad to be a part of them as well. So I want to thank again everyone for attending. Thank you, Dan, Samantha, and Ann for joining us, and everyone look forward to that next event next month, and you'll get something soon in your inboxes.
Thanks, everyone.